Welcome to Inside the Americas. Here's a look at today's show. The shooting death of an unarmed black teenager in Missouri has unveiled deep-seated racial tensions in the U.S., and that's leaving America's first black president under increasing pressure. In northern Mexico, some 20,000 people are still without clean drinking water. The culprit, their local river contaminated by spillover from the country's largest mine. And one of the most beloved theme parks in America is being deserted by its customers and its shareholders. SeaWorld is suffering from a documentary that shows the reportedly awful conditions of killer whales in captivity. Well, the world is now focusing on a small American town that almost no one had heard of 2 weeks ago. Since then, Ferguson, Missouri has become synonymous with the hot-button issue of American race relations. The spark of the protests, the death of an unarmed black teenager shot and killed by a white policeman. The ongoing rallies are fueled by anger over not just that incident, but what are perceived to be the continuing inequalities across the U.S. And that's leaving the country's first black president under increasing pressure.
Protesters in Ferguson, furious at the killing of a black teenager by a white police officer. Social tensions in Missouri raising the spectre of still uneasy race relations in 21st century America.
Until they get some black cops in these black areas, it's going to be a big mess.
That anger mixed with disappointment too, directed at Barack Obama. In 2008, as he campaigned for the presidency, his candidacy seen as a chance for the US to enter a post-racial era. In Philadelphia, 6 months before his election, Obama decrying the status quo.
The anger is real. It is powerful. And to simply wish it away, to condemn it without understanding its roots, only serves to widen the chasm of misunderstanding that exists between the races. A part of our union that we have not yet made perfect.
Obama's victory a cause for celebration in the black community. His slogan of hope generating optimism that racial and social disparities would be addressed. But once ensconced in the White House, Obama adopting a more reconciliatory stance as the president of all Americans.
Barack Obama has always refused to have a policy for the black community. Given that he's black, it would be politically dangerous. He could have been accused of favoring his community.
Barack Obama's first-term domestic agenda was largely dominated by his overhaul of the healthcare system, in part a way to assist the black community without being accused of favoritism.
He believes that these social measures will benefit mostly African Americans and Latinos. But they're not race-specific policies. That is to say that they're not just for one community.
But America's tense race relations haven't gone away under Obama. The killing in Ferguson, recalling the death of Trayvon Martin in 2012. The unarmed 17-year-old gunned down by a white security guard in Florida. His death and the acquittal of his killer bringing back ghosts of America's unjust treatment of blacks, even for the president.
When Trayvon Martin was first shot, I said that this could have been my son. Another way of saying that is Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago.
After 5.5 years in power, the unrest in Ferguson perhaps serving as a wake-up call for Barack Obama. It's also a reminder for many African Americans that little has changed in their daily lives under the first black US president.
Now to Mexico, where some 20,000 people are still without clean drinking water. Citizens in the northern border state of Sonora are asking the government for an independent analysis of the contamination levels of the local river. It was made toxic by tons of sulfuric acid spilled from Mexico's largest mine.
After 40,000 cubic meters of sulfuric acid was spilled in this river in the northern state of Sonora in Mexico, more than 20,000 people were left without direct access to clean water.
It smelled like iron, rotten iron.
Residents now fear for their health, their cattle and their crops.
How will we know when we eat that cow or buy that meat, whether it's good or bad for us?
According to Grupo Mexico, third biggest copper producer in the world and operator of the mine, the accident was due to heavy rain and a technical failure. But the company now says the spill's damages are under control after 140 tons of lime were poured in the river to neutralize the acid.
The levels are really low. They don't even reach 10 parts per million. Our commitment is to accept all environmental responsibility and every cost of this terrible accident.
The Mexican Water Commission is now running some tests. They say the mine itself should monitor the water quality for the next 5 years, as some former workers and residents don't trust Grupo Mexico's assessment of the damages.
It was an almost deadly blow for the Sonora River. Bring environmentalists, bring chemists, and let's see if they say it's not toxic. Let them convince the people living on the river that they can go back to use that water.
Even if the Mexican Water Commission agrees that the river's pH levels are back to normal, it still restricts access until further notice to all wells within 500 meters of its shores as a precaution. For thousands of Mexicans, this means another week might go by without clean water.
We'll turn our attention now to Brazil. It was a busy week there, filled with a prison breakout, an amazing sprint, and a farewell to a presidential hopeful. Olivia Salazar-Winspear brings us a wrap of the top stories.
A last goodbye to a congressman, a minister, and a local boy who rose to great heights. On Sunday, thousands of Brazilians lined the streets of Recife to pay their respects to the former governor of Pernambuco state. Eduardo Campos died in a plane crash on the 13th of August. The 49-year-old politician was a presidential hopeful in this year's upcoming election. Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff attended his funeral alongside former leader Lula da Silva. Making a break for freedom from inside prison walls. 13 men in Goiás, central Brazil, managed to escape from prison 2 weeks ago by digging a tunnel with their bare hands. The inmates filmed their own escape on their mobile phones, posting the footage to social media sites.
We're getting out. We're digging like a mole. We're digging. It's going to work.
Within 4 days, they'd reached the prison's kitchen garden. Security cameras recorded their escape. Authorities say they've intercepted 3 of the 13 escapees. He made his name in Beijing, surpassed himself in London. Now Usain Bolt is warming up for Rio. Running on Copacabana Beach on Sunday, Bolt left his international competitors in the dust, winning a 100-meter sprint by a large margin. The kind of performance that wowed his Brazilian fans and guaranteed he'll be seeing them in the future.
Yes, everybody knows I'm coming to 2016 Olympics, right guys? Everybody knows I'm coming. There's no doubt I'll be here. No worries.
This despite a foot injury that had threatened to keep him off the track. Usain Bolt has said he's holding off his retirement for a third shot at Olympic gold.
Well, for many Americans, the water theme park SeaWorld is synonymous with killer whales. For decades, the park has been packed with people getting splashed and thrilled by orcas. But last year, a documentary film called Blackfish ruined SeaWorld's reputation by showing the misery of the whales outside the public eye. Ticket sales and share prices dropped, but SeaWorld is now determined to fight back.
A star performance. For 40 years, killer whales have been the main attraction at US SeaWorld parks, bringing in a constant stream of visitors. Until recently, the revenues of the company have taken a huge hit. Its share price has fallen by 30%, and animal welfare protests against the parks are multiplying. Behind all this is a documentary revealing the darker side of SeaWorld, beginning with the capture of the orcas, caught on camera here in the 70s.
They had aircraft, they had spotters, they had speedboats, they had bombs they were throwing in the water. They were lighting their bombs with acetylene torches in their boats and throwing them as fast as they could to herd the whales.
Once trapped in the nets, the whales are shown being transported carelessly to the entertainment parks. According to the film, what comes next is even worse: the living conditions of these sociable mammals in captivity.
Captivity definitely, without a doubt, increases the stress level of these animals, and stress leads to frustration. Frustration leads to aggression.
As in this video from 2006, an 18-year-old killer whale grabs her trainer by the foot and drags him 12 meters deep into her tank. After a long struggle, he manages to escape with just a ruptured ligament. 4 years later, this trainer in Orlando was less fortunate. She was killed by an orca in the middle of a performance. Reacting to the mounting criticism, SeaWorld has announced new, larger pools for the animals.
The killer whale habitat here will have nearly doubled in size. This scale is absolutely remarkable.
The company hopes this will improve its public image, but the damage may have been done. Some states are currently debating outright bans on these sorts of shows.
All right, we'll leave you now on a much lighter note. This week, former U.S. President Bill Clinton turned 68 years old, and his wife Hillary came up with the perfect present for her husband, who's an avid fan of the political TV show House of Cards. She and the show's star, Kevin Spacey, put together a video to get people to sign the former president's virtual birthday card. Spacey plays his diabolical politician Frank Underwood, making a prank phone call to Hillary pretending he's Bill. Take a look.
Hello. Washington, D.C. is so boring during the summer that I like to entertain myself by, well, having some fun with my predecessors.
Hello.
Hi, Hill. It's Bill. Look, we have to talk about this baby name for Chelsea. Now, I was thinking, if it's a boy, we should encourage them to name him Frank. And if it's a girl, what do you think about Claire?
Well, I was actually thinking of pushing for the name Kevin if it's a boy. Kevin, will you please just sign my husband's birthday card already?
All right, happy late birthday to President Clinton. That wraps up this edition of Inside the Americas. We'll see you again next week for all the news from north to south.